So iPhone 17 Pro Max versus the iPhone 14 Pro Max, should you upgrade? So what is up guys, Nick here helping you to master your technology. It's been about 3 years since the iPhone 14 Pro Max had launched, and it's time to discuss if it's due for an upgrade. I've had the iPhone 17 Pro Max for over a month now. We're already going to our second month here in November, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you if I think this is worth the upgrade. And throughout this video, we'll compare everything. So let's start by talking about the design and the feel. So this phone right away, I have to say, one of the things I've been noticing a lot, and I've mentioned in my previous reviews, is that the iPhone 17 Pro Max tends to feel a lot smoother in the palm. Now that comes down to the aluminum frame, but also at the edges, it's just smooth. I love this feel in the hand. It's very ergonomic, especially for those people who don't really rock a case. This phone feels very good without a case in the hand. However, it is a little bit slippery due to that aluminum. I do have to mention that. Now, while I do feel a little bit more confidence holding the iPhone 14 Pro Max without a case, its edges are a little bit sharper, and generally it just feels a little bit heftier, but not quite as smooth in the hand. It weighs 240 grams, and it does have a glass front and back, but the iPhone 17 Pro Max glass is only in this section right here, and it's structured around an aluminum frame. Now, the iPhone 17 Pro Max's aluminum material is technically a cheaper material than this stainless steel frame around the space black 14 Pro Max here. However, do keep in mind that the iPhone 17 Pro Max does much better with heat dissipation. So if you are a heavier user and you play a lot of games, the 17 Pro Max is a worthy upgrade there. But I think if you like a phone that just kind of feels premium in the hand, I think the 17 Pro Max doesn't feel quite as premium in terms of the material choice due to stainless steel being just a heftier, kind of more luxe feel. But it's more function to me, and I like the way it feels in terms of the smooth edges. Looks wise though, I'm not so sure it looks better. I think the 14 Pro Max's rear casing tends to look a little bit better. The front of the iPhone 17 Pro Max looks better because it does have thinner bezels and a larger display, which just makes it look like an absolute monster of a beast of a phone right there. But the iPhone 14 Pro Max does have noticeable bezels by comparison to that of the iPhone 17 Pro Max. It's pretty funny to say that because when the iPhone 14 Pro Max came out, the bezels were not even noticeable. But when you kind of like compare it to the iPhone 17 Pro Max, they're now 3 years later, that is noticeable. So if you're wondering, should you upgrade in terms of design and feel? I think if you want a phone to feel smoother to hold, yes, and it's lighter. So I think overall, yes, I think it is a good upgrade. However, if those of you who are like really obsessed with like a luxurious feel in the hand, I would probably wait to see if Apple changes the design. So should you upgrade when it comes to the software? Now you might be saying, well, why would I? It already has iOS 26 on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Well, because it's going to run better on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and it's also going to go much further in the updates. It's starting its third year. This has probably got 2 or maybe 3 under its belt left. This has like 5 to 6 more. So yes, for software, it is worth the upgrade just for the longevity reasons. But if you're talking about actual functionality here right now in 2025, I would say it's not needed now, and it won't be needed for at least a couple of years in terms of an actual need. But for the question, should you upgrade, if you're planning to go the long haul, the 17 Pro Max is worth it. Also, it does have more camera features in the software that is mostly tied to its hardware, and also Apple Intelligence, which the iPhone 14 Pro Max does not support. I know a lot of people say, well, they're in beta, it doesn't work that well, who cares? Still, you got visual intelligence, the camera control button, the action button. All these features are definitely making this phone feel like it offers a pretty good amount more than this device over here, including improved pro features as well within this software, again tied to the hardware upgrades in the camera. So I do think from a software perspective, while the core experience is still the same on the 14 Pro Max, it is upgraded on the iPhone 17 Pro Max and probably worthy of an update 3 years later when it comes to the display. Now for me, it's mostly down to the bezels. I know I'm being a little bit petty with bezels here, but it is noticeable. Like, let's take a look. There's a black border and it's Probably the best on the space black, but lighter color options, it'll probably be a little bit more noticeable. But the display is also bigger and brighter on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Not really smoother, but it is brighter outdoors to see. So that is actual usable benefit. But the 6.9 just makes it feel closer to phablet territory, whereas the iPhone 7 or 14 Pro Max a few years ago was still big, but a little bit more manageable at a 6.7-inch size. So if you want a more manageable size, I think the display on the 14 Pro Max is still okay to keep. But if you're looking to always get the max size display, there's just nothing like the iPhone 17 Pro Max. It is 6.9, and I'm saying in terms of the iPhones. I'm not talking about competitors. You can see just smooth to hold and a smooth, large display that's also lighter phone than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. You also do get more screen to body ratio due to that bezel, which means you're seeing more display in your hand altogether. And also that front ceramic shield 2 makes this front display a worthy upgrade in terms of scratch resistance. Also, it does have anti-reflective coating properties that are strong compared to that of the 14 Pro Max, which will exhibit more glare. There's also an included feature within the iPhone 17 Pro Max that makes this a worthy upgrade if you're sensitive to PWM. Head over in accessibility, scroll down to display and text size, scroll down here, and you'll see this display pulse smoothing option, PWM. So it says it disables pulse width modulation to provide a different way to dim the OLED display. Now, this can create a smoother display output at low brightness levels, and this can be huge for those of you who were irritated by OLED displays on iPhones in the past, including that of the 14 Pro Max. So there are plenty of display upgrades, even if it looks like, oh, it's just another big iPhone display. Yes, am I getting down to the technical nitty gritty? Absolutely. But, we're looking for the details. iPhones have been mature for a while, but there are upgrades, and I mentioned most of them here in this video already. So let's talk about performance. Now, this is one that is a hot topic as well, in the terms of like people saying, my iPhone is 3 years old, it's 4 years old, it runs fine, I'm not falling for this no more. Here's the deal though. You have 6 gigabytes of RAM. On the iPhone 17 Pro Max, it's 50% more RAM. That's 12 GB. Now, why does that matter? It matters when the software gets more powerful to run the upcoming AI stuff that's going to be improving down the line, and the more powerful software that is coming to your devices down the line. Right now, though, the core experience is still fine on the iPhone because it's still a light mobile OS. So the reality of this is long-term use. That's where this is going to be more beneficial to you. But also, everything runs snappier, and you don't really get any reloads or anything like that on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Whereas the 14 Pro Max, if you do have like multiple applications open and you're relaunching things and stuff of that sort, you could potentially run into an application that does reload itself. Now, does this matter for the majority of users? No. And honestly, the iPhone 14 Pro Max probably wouldn't reload a lot of applications if you're unless you have like 12 or more open at one time and you're flipping between them. So the performance, I have to say, on the 14 Pro Max is still fine. This is not a must jump right now, but if you are thinking about your long-term experience and you want your iPhone to continue to perform well 2027, 2028 down the line, I think the 17 Pro Max is a worthy upgrade for sure. The 6-core GPU is also stronger, so you're going to have not only better benchmarks, but you'll have better graphical performance as well if you're playing things like Call of Duty, you're playing things like Destiny Rising, and you're just playing these more graphically demanding games. You got to know yourself, though, and if you know I don't play that stuff, the core experience, you're probably not going to notice a substantial difference in your day-to-day life right now. All right, guys, so when it comes to the camera, the 14 Pro Max was the phone that launched the 48 megapixel camera, and I remember at the time that was a big deal, as they always had 12 megapixel cameras. However, the 17 Pro Max is the phone that launches the 48 megapixel camera across the triple camera array. So now everything, and I've been talking about that since this phone came out, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, that they should bring 48 megapixel across the board, and they've done it. So you can now, this enables consistency across the cameras, just like they used to have with the triple 12 megapixel cameras, making this phone feel more like a modern day 13 Pro Max, where every camera has nearly identical quality. But also the 17 Pro Max lends to a much better zooming experience, going all the way up to 40 times or 8 times right here. And then you can go ahead and hit 4K at 60 as usual, but you can do slow-mo 4K 120 on this phone. So the 4K does get definitely stronger overall. Time-lapsing features available, same stuff you're used to, spatial video, panoramic video. But the big jump here also will come in the way of a front-facing camera that is much wider and better quality at 18 megapixels. It tends to do a strong performance in both those departments. This phone doesn't necessarily feel like it's life-changing, but it feels like a pro upgrade, like a true pro upgrade. So let's take a look now at the 14 Pro Max and talk about if you should upgrade from this. So flipping around to the rear, the thing is that the iPhone 14 Pro Max still has fantastic cameras. It does have the capabilities of shooting really sharp photos, goes 3x and can zoom 15 times. However, 15 times can become a limit if you want to reach very far on things, and they don't have the same quality across lenses because you're going to 12 megapixel on the other lenses, including that ultra wide. Will most people notice? Not really, but at the same time, it is sharper, and we're being technical here. This is a technical technology channel, so we got to get down to the specs. You'll see right here 4K at 60, and if you scroll over here to slow motion, there are different options available here. And overall, most people would say like it's basically the same thing, but when you come to the front, it's definitely not the same thing. It's much closer to the face. But for me, it really comes down to the pro user features. If you use your phone in a professional format, this is really the better option. Also, if you use your phone for a lot of social media stuff, like social media is becoming your thing. You want to, use TikTok, YouTube Shorts, YouTube, whatever you're doing, these cameras are really excellent. For those of you who are not doing that and you're not content creators, you're regular users out there, I don't think the upgrade is necessarily worth it. But for those of you who are looking towards a pro level camera in your pocket, it is. So that's just the way it is. So when it comes to the battery life, the iPhone 17 Pro Max is absolutely crushing the game right now. Everybody's talking about how great the battery is. Now, the 14 Pro Max wasn't a phone that let me down. The smaller 14 Pro, I got rid of that a while ago because the battery life was terrible on that phone. It also got too hot and dimmed the display too much. But the 14 Pro Max was solid. This phone got through the day just fine. And it's an all-day heavy use phone, but it's not an all-day and then some phone. That's the 17 Pro Max. 17 Pro Max is looking at more like a day and a half. And for a heavy user, and probably closer to 2 days for a light user or a medium user, and then maybe 2.5 for a very light user. So if you're not using the phone much, you might not need to charge the 17 Pro Max for about 3 days. If you're like a really light user, like you just put the phone down, you use a text message, make a call here and there. Not most people buying this are doing that. So they're going to be charging every day or a day and a half. But those lighter users would really go the distance. The iPhone 14 Pro Max, solid battery backup, but it's nowhere near this one right here. And if you actually look at the spec sheet, the actual physical size of the batteries are substantially different. We have 4323 over here, and then we have 5088 on the 17 Pro Max. So that's a big jump in the actual physical size, which would lead you to come to the obvious conclusion that that's the better battery. Now, the 17 Pro Max actually also has louder speakers. It's about 2 to 3 decibels louder than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And it also has a USB-C down there versus that Lightning port, which also the paint started chipping around the charging port on my space black model here. But yeah, having a louder speaker for calls and music makes the 17 Pro Max, to me, a more desirable option. And so if you do like that, you like to listen to music and you want it to boom out of your phone, that's also louder on the new phone. So that's a pretty good upgrade as well. And when it comes to the network performance as well, the 17 Pro Max actually has a much better 5G performance and reception quality and strength. I found that I would usually have less bars on the iPhone 14 Pro Max and also have a little bit less reliable speed when it comes to the performance on my 5G and stuff like that, even Wi-Fi speeds. So everything connecting snappier and faster as we go into this era of AI is a big deal. But yeah, for sure, the 17 Pro Max is ahead in that department as well when it comes to the network differences. Now, when it comes to special features, they both have emergency SOS. They both do have, Face ID, but the special feature here is going to be the camera control. Both of them do have crash detection. And overall, they do tend to offer the similar ecosystem matching. Like you can use 15 Pro Max or 14 Pro Max with the Apple Watch, the iPad. You can do all that stuff on both. So it's not really like you're behind on anything like with the ecosystem. But the real everyday use differences that make the 17 Pro Max to me worthy of the upgrade is it's just the battery life, man. It's just so much noticeable. And also the larger display with thinner bezels makes this phone feel like a polished size upgrade over the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The 14 Pro Max feels luxe though. It has this nice stainless steel edge. It's hefty. It feels luxurious. It really does. But at the same time, it's starting to feel a little bit dated compared to the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Even if they do have a similar camera array and this does have the updates, the actual design, because they used it since the 12 Pro Max, this new design change just makes this feel much newer, if you will. That's just all I got to say about that. But for the rest of the everyday people, I think for most users, you don't have to upgrade right away. This is when you could take your time, save up for it if you wanted to. But if you wanted to ask me as like somebody who's reviewing phones for years, is it worth the upgrade? I say yes, for the fact that if you look at pretty much most features, they've all been upgraded over this phone. Let's start with, and let's kind of do a quick recap of them. You know, you do have the brighter display on the front, bigger display. You do have camera control. You don't have that here. Action button, which you don't have over here as well. Faster CPU, longer battery life, improve basically all of the cameras. So, but I mean, the only thing you could say is that same old tired statement that a lot of I hear a lot, and that is, it's an iPhone. It still works like an iPhone. My iPhone works fine. Nobody said your iPhone didn't work fine, but we're trying to answer the question: is the upgrade worth it? And if you want to talk about finances and you want to talk about the how much it costs and how much is taken out of your, that's all personal and relative to your specific situation. I'm just talking objectively, phone to phone. Is it the better phone? And it's clear as day. So let me know your thoughts about this one right here. 14 Pro Max to the 17 Pro Max. Now, it would be a tighter discussion if we were talking 15 or 16 Pro Max, but this is the 3-year-old upgrade here. So we're getting to that stage where it's kind of like year 4, you're probably already going to be thinking about it. Year 5, you probably are jumping to the next one. And I can understand where a lot of people might be going to the foldables or waiting for the foldables. That's totally understandable. But I think pound for pound, the 17 Pro Max is smashing the 14 Pro Max in pretty much most areas. 14 Pro Max does still have a lot of the core stuff that the 17 Pro Max has, but it's built upon that and made pretty much all of it better. So thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.